Hi, you may have heard me say the word girl power. What does that really mean in this day and age? Feminism? Feminism in the dictionary means the equalization between men and women. In this modern day, we want to have a conversation that talks about supporting women, and we need your help. I feel absolutely honored to be here for the United Nations UN Women HeForShe. And today we're going to have an open conversation with some heads of companies, how we can learn from each other. Everything is welcome here. This is an open conversation, and I'm really excited to be here. We have the head of De Beers and the head of Vodafone. So first of all, we're going to speak to Bruce Cleaver from De Beers. Bruce, would you like to tell us a bit more about the De Beers journey for the HeForShe campaign, which has been under the umbrella of the United Nations?
Thanks, Geri. Yeah, we've been proud participants in HeForShe, and I've been a thematic champion since 2017. Some years ago, we looked at the inclusion and diversity in De Beers, and it frankly wasn't good enough, and it simply wasn't good enough. So we really knew we needed to do something, and we looked around to find a credible partner who could help us in this journey. And we found UN Women, and they found us. And together, we've been on an amazing journey. You know, we come from largely a mining business, and inclusion and diversity has historically proved more difficult there. But we set out with an ambitious goal to double the rate of hiring in senior appointments in women across De Beers in a 3-year period. And we stuck to that, and we beat that target, notwithstanding the pandemic and a really tough time for the business.
And so can we bring Nick Reed from Vodafone? What's your experience for the HeForShe campaign?
So we did some research on gender or domestic violence. Across 107 countries, we found that 15% of women had experienced some form of domestic violence in the past year. 15%. That a third of them had a drop in productivity as a result. So this is huge and massive impact, and we need to stand up and tackle this. So we said we needed to, as a company, do a domestic violence policy globally for our business. It involved 10 days safe leave. It involved access to information support, financial service support, flexible working. So we gave a package of support. And it also involved training of managers and HR reps through our business to ensure they understood how to deal with certain situations. So we did a very holistic approach. And what I'm really pleased is 1 year on, we did a survey of people, and survivors are actively using that policy. I mean, people are using 3 to 10 days. What for? Going to court, going to see the police, moving home. So, you know, real tangible issues they were facing, and we could be there for them. And at the same time, it was great to hear back from managers saying not only could they give support for the team, but also they could be advocates in the society and also support their family and friends. So you're having a wider impact than just within your business. It goes a lot broader. And we're working with a lot of companies now who are saying, please give me your toolkit. We're giving them the toolkit, the research, the policy. We make it all available on Vodafone.com. so that they can go on that journey with us.
Okay, Nick, so what else is Vodafone doing?
One of the key things that we've been focused on, other than internal policy, is using our technology. We call it apps against abuse. We have a portfolio of different apps, and we've built up a base of users of 1.3 million using the various apps. The most recent one is Bright Sky. And we launched this, and it's mainly focused at allowing someone to understand the relationship, understand whether it's a safe relationship or whether it has abusive aspects to it, that it points people to what are the different types of abusive relationships, so it has an educational aspect to it. If it's an abusive relationship, what's the nearest centre that they could get support? And just then also allows them to log the various incidents that happen. So it's a real support for survivors in an anonymous way that they can use, and also other people can help survivors. So we've been really rolling this out across Europe and Africa, and we now have over 100,000 users of the app. And importantly, there was a 75% increase in the downloads of this app over the pandemic. So it just goes to show again that the shadow pandemic that happened around domestic violence is more relevant than ever.
Bruce, you yourself have done a huge amount for supporting women, and building on that momentum. What are your thoughts of how you can move? What's next?
Well, we have very ambitious goals in a number of areas. Things like becoming carbon neutral by 2030. Things like 4 jobs created off mine site for every 1 job on the mine. So all of what we do is part of a holistic strategy, which is very much focused around our sustainability strategy, which is very much core business. And I think that is a big point. This needs to be core business. It can't be something that maybe 10 or 20 years ago was a nice to have. This is the business as far as I'm concerned. Now, we've discovered through the pandemic, though, of course, in the countries in which we operate, that gender-based violence has increased a great deal. And we've done a tremendous amount there on both advocacy and access. We've also learned, interestingly, that even though some of these countries are geographically close to each other, you have to be different in different countries because there are different challenges for you to overcome. I think we do have to step this up more in the future. I think one of the key things for me about advocacy is we've got to do more with men in communities, not just in our organization, about being positive influences here. So we've got a really interesting way of doing this, for example, in Botswana, where we get the message out not only through local radio stations and through Facebook, but we engage very much with the community, with business leaders, with football players, with traditional leaders, with faith-based leaders. And I think we've got to do more there. I think we've got to make sure, particularly in remote areas, that there is no stigma attached to being a survivor, and that it's important that people talk about these difficult topics. So it's not just providing physical safe spaces, and we do a lot of that, and providing counseling, and we do a great deal of that. It's also about how you help people talk about this more and destigmatize it. And then the other part of that for us, which we've been really focused on through the pandemic, is trying to get to the root cause of this, which in many cases is poverty, extreme poverty. So we have a great program called Accelerating Women Micro-Owned Entrepreneurs. And we've supported 1,000 women owning very small businesses around our communities. You wouldn't be surprised to hear, Geri, that women reinvest the proceeds of their businesses back in communities and men don't, as a rule. So we invest very much in women here. But this is really so that we can help them become less dependent. And I think there's a lot more work for us to do there in trying to set ambitious goals to help lift people out of poverty. That is a really key way of addressing the gender-based violence issue. So even though lockdown was underway, we trained women with digital skills and the kind of skills they need for the future. We helped them source government grants, etc. So we have tremendously ambitious goals, and I think you should never stop with these. I think if you meet one, you need to set another one, and you need to continually set the bar higher and higher with ambitious goals. I think you mentioned it earlier. It's okay if you don't meet all of them. I don't think that's the point. The point is, are you ambitious enough? Are you authentic enough? And do you keep pushing the boundaries? So none of us is there yet, and I totally agree with Nick as well, that this can't be done by one organization. You've got to partner with people, with other corporates, with NGOs, with UN Women and people like that. That's the fastest way of doing this. The truth is there's a long way to go.
The truth is there is a long way to go, but it's brilliant that everybody is opening the conversation. We've talked about education. Education empowers, but also it's prevention. But I'm wondering if, there's something to be looked at for everyone, for our youth, for the younger generation, to actually inspire them. So obviously to inspire the girls through education, but also the young boys. Everybody deserves the chance to grow. And the only way we're going to do that is by sharing that information, like you, Bruce and Nick. You two are doing that. I've learned from you today. Nick, what's next?
We're doing a lot to drive an increase in women representation in leadership roles, and I think that is really fundamental because it will build different businesses and play a part to how those businesses engage with society. I'd say the second thing is that what we're really focused on is working with other companies, sharing research, sharing thought leadership, like Bruce, you know, sitting down and saying, how can we be more influential together as a community on the rest of private sector? Because, you know, there's a big range of companies that are either not progressed at all to being very progressed, and this is a really important subject. So I think the private sector needs to be vocal, needs to be visible, and needs to show leadership in this area. And you know, whether it's gender diversity or whether it's domestic violence for gender equality, difficult subjects that you have to say, we stand for this, and here's what we're going to do, and then offer it to others to copy or take our lead.
Oh, brilliant. It's been really, really inspiring. Thank you so much, both of you, for your time. And I'm sure everybody listening today, we haven't got so much Zoom gloom. It's been very uplifting. So thank you very much.